Thank you all for coming. Can you hear me in the back?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, thank you. All right, we're going to start with approval of the minutes from the November 14th meeting. Anyone have any questions, corrections? Entertain a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. Okay, we're going to go right back into H&K. Scott, you want to take the floor?
As you recall, at the last meeting in November, we discussed our most recent submittal, which was dated October, and there was a number of discussions about predominantly groundwater. There was some questions about the PINDY search that was provided. I recall that the majority of the night was spent on groundwater issues. We have no more additional information to present, so we just wanted to basically kind of recap, touch on a couple of the things, specifically at PINDY, and really have closing remarks, and I'll turn it over to Mr. Haynes and allow him to finish and turn it back over to you.
Okay.
So, as you recall, last meeting there were some questions about the PINDY search, and I think specifically the question was, one of the answers in that PINDY was regarding groundwater extraction, and the way we answered it was there would be no groundwater extraction related to this project being the expansion project. And I explained that we answered it that way because the proposed expansion isn't going to change the volume and the rate at which we discharge. It's just an expansion of area. We went back and reran that PINDY, and we did two things. We increased the area of that search to include the entirety of both properties and some additional area. Almost out the 1,000-acre road, we basically boxed out from the state game lands all the way across towards Ridge Road to encompass both properties to cover a larger area. And we also answered that question differently, and we chose the opposite end and said that we would be discharging in excess of 1,000 gallons per day. We have the results, and I can provide that to you. And essentially, we got from DCNR the same 9 hits, or the same hits for the 9 plant species, and then from U.S. Fish and Wildlife, they asked for additional information. They didn't specifically cite the bog turtle, but I think it's geared towards the bog turtle. Now, so essentially, we got the same results. Now, if you recall on what we provided in October, we searched the area that would be affected by the proposed expansion. And we then submitted additional information to the 2 agencies that showed impact, DCNR for the plant and U.S. Fish and Wildlife for the bog turtle. We provided additional information regarding the project to DCNR. They came back and cleared those 9 plant species and said no impact. That was provided in that October packet. We had a qualified bog turtle specialist come out and review the area and search to determine if there was bog turtle habitat in that study area or not. There was not in the packet that we provided in October. They signed the section of the form that a qualified bog turtle specialist has to indicate that there's no habitat. They followed up with a formal report which was submitted to U.S. Fish and Wildlife. So for all intents and purposes, the PINDY hits that we got have been resolved, and should we get zoning, the next stage would be to apply for a permit correction. That's when that information will be provided. That will be required as part of the application. Essentially what we have today, we could use and would use at that stage. So I just wanted to clear that up, and in response to the last meeting, let you know that we did research or rerun that PINDY for a larger area. We answered that question to the opposite end of the spectrum, and essentially we received the same results. I can provide that search to you guys to look at, but that's where we are with the PINDY. Okay. As far as wrapping up, there's a couple things that we wanted to touch on: property values, groundwater, of course, and economic benefits of the aggregate industry. All of these we've talked extensively in the past meetings. There was number of discussions on each one of the topics, and we've provided specific information on each of these topics in that October submission packet. And I just wanted to take a couple minutes and just kind of review that, and then turn it over to Mr. Haynes for his closing remarks. For property values, although we would agree that there are individuals that, looking at a property next to a quarry, may choose not to purchase that property because of the presence of a quarry. And we contend that that's more of a personal decision. The fact that that could happen does not indicate that property values would decrease as a result of the presence of a quarry. In our packet that we provided to you in October, we provided you some recent local property sales with comparables outside the area, comparables that are not near a quarry, to support that property sales around the quarry are commensurate with real estate trends in areas outside of a quarry, where there's no quarry present. We also provided in that informational packet examples of the developments adjacent to quarry operations, which demonstrate that those developments are selling at market rate. We also note that in the last year, we've noted that there's 8 properties within 1,000 foot of the quarry that have sold. We look at that, and it indicates to us that the market in the immediate area surrounding the quarry is not stagnant. You know, properties are selling just like they probably would in areas where there is no quarry. And we provided information to indicate that there really is no information out there indicating depressed values due to the presence of a quarry. And the information that we provided in that packet supports pretty much all of the things that I just noted. We wanted to touch on that. It's something that was discussed in meetings but never really formally presented on, which is why we provided that information in the October submission. Groundwater. We talked about groundwater extensively for a number of meetings. At the last meeting, I think the majority of the meeting was spent on groundwater, probably about 2 hours worth of discussion. Our initial submission for this application back in September of last year, in that we provided a groundwater model. The groundwater model showed the zone of influence from the existing quarry and what that zone of influence impact would be as a result of the expansion. Throughout the past meetings, we've described our existing monitoring program and how we use the data from that monitoring program to derive a groundwater model, and how that data that we obtain in our ongoing monitoring program is used to assess potential impacts and well complaints. We listened to a number of discussions, questions, and concerns raised over the course of these meetings, and as a result, we proposed additional groundwater specific to quality. We proposed that because we've heard the concerns, and we felt that it was prudent for us to get extensive or additional information specific to quality. Our existing monitoring program focuses on static water level, where the water table is in the area. It does not focus on quality. So we proposed, in response to the concerns that were raised, a quality monitoring program. We proposed that to gather information to either refute the stance that we've been making regarding the impact to groundwater quality, or support it. It was a 3-year program that we're proposing, at least initially, that we would work hand in hand with the township during that process. We provided a number of information and testimony throughout this process regarding groundwater quality specific to arsenic, and whether or not quarry activity is causing the arsenic or elevating the existing arsenic levels. Our stance has been pretty clear. The information that we provided in the packets, I believe, has been clear as well as to our stance, being that although the quarry can have an impact on the groundwater quantity, in that the groundwater table can be lowered by the zone of influence, quality is not impacted by the quarry. We understand the township hired a groundwater consultant or a consultant to review the data and provide their own opinion or assessment on those topics. We're interested, we're eager to hear what those results are, and we're confident that they're going to be consistent with what we've been saying. Over the past number of meetings, we talked about recent well impacts. We've had about 15 to 20 in the last 18 to 24 months. And we explained our protocol and how we handle well complaints. And a number of those, all of those have been resolved. And the one thing that we take away from that is if we weren't doing what we're saying with regards to our program, our monitoring program, and our protocol and how we respond to well complaints, and people weren't being taken care of or people weren't satisfied with our response, the township would be receiving complaints and calls. DEP would be receiving complaints and calls. And that's simply not happening. We want to take care of those complaints. We want to work with the residents one-on-one. We don't want the township to have to get involved, and nor do we want DEP to get involved. We want to take care of it and deal with it one-on-one and get it resolved. And our track record over the last 18 to 24 months, but even beyond that, and farther in the past, supports that. And it shows that we're doing what we're saying we're doing. Economic impact. There were some questions, some comments made in the past, regarding what does the local community get? How do they benefit from the quarry? In the October submission, we provided you a paper that was prepared by a Washington, D.C. based organization providing public policy studies. And what they did was they looked at what the aggregate industry does or how it benefits and impacts the local economy at the state, at the national, state, and county levels. The paper identified the contributions that the aggregate industry makes at a number of levels regarding jobs, wages, and sales. In the industry, indirect to related support industries, and what they called induced or trickle down into unrelated markets, just the local economy. In the papers that we provided, the paper identifies the impacts at the national level. And what it does is, it says that for every dollar of earnings in the aggregate industry, supports $4.19 of earnings in other sectors. For each dollar of sales, it equates to about $3.47 of sales in other industries. And one aggregate job supports an additional 4.87 jobs throughout the economy. Now that's at the national level. And if you read that paper, it goes on to say that those multipliers, those factors, reduce as you get through the state and down to the local or the county levels. And in the examples that they provided, you can see that. In our October submission, in addition to that paper that we provided, we performed a little analysis of the Naceville operation alone, using the multipliers that they used in that paper to show what the impact Naceville has on the local economy through those different sectors. Naceville alone, through direct, indirect, and induced effects, provided a total of 34 jobs, a total of about $2 million in earnings, and a total of about $15 million in sales. That was Naceville alone in the year, and that's using sales figures and earnings and jobs at the local facility for 2016. So we used 2016 data. Now, what we also did for this meeting, we looked at all of the H&K facilities in Bucks County that are operating. And what does that look like? What do those numbers look like in Bucks County? Total of jobs is 239. Total of earnings is about 8 million, and there's about a total of 95 million in sales. Now, what those numbers are is that's those aggregate operations, the industries that directly support the aggregate operation, and then the businesses in the local economy that aren't directly related to the aggregate industry, but benefit from the wages that are spent throughout the local economy. And that's directly derived from the multipliers and the protocol that was outlined in that paper that the Washington DC based company prepared. So as you can see, an aggregate operation does have a benefit, an economic impact to the local economy. I wanted to just discuss that briefly. I'm certain you reviewed it and looked at it. But we also wanted to expand that analysis beyond Naceville, just to show what, just in Bucks County, what the H&K operations, not the other ones, but the H&K operations, what impact they have on that, on the Bucks County or the local economy. So those are the 4 things that we wanted to touch on. We're certainly going to be here to answer any questions that you have. But at this time, I think I'd like to turn it over to Jim Haynes and allow him to finish with his closing remarks.
So once again, gentlemen, thank you on behalf of Naceville and H&K Group. I'd like to thank you for your time that you provided Naceville and the members of the
Excuse me,
board.
Jim, could you speak up a little? I think folks in the background are
Certainly.
heard.
Can you hear me now? We'd like to thank you all for the time that you provided, both Naceville and H&K, and the members of the community, your time as well, to listen to our plan. It's been our belief since the beginning and the onset of this plan. We've acted in an upfront, maintained an upfront, and open-minded approach to our expansion requests. The approach has been consistent with the way we do business and the company of our the cultures of our company. From the first gathering at Tylersport, we've not only laid out our plan, but I think more importantly, listened in great detail to the concerns of the township and the members of the community. We've opened our doors on 4 separate occasions at the mine, ran tours. Anybody that wanted to attend, wanted to come and see how we operate, not only as an operator, but as a neighbor. Our goal being to show off our facility, educate anybody that had a desire, that might want to learn more. We conducted these open house events as learning opportunities and educational opportunities. With the concerns and suggestions that you have all brought forward, we continue to modify our plan through these processes, demonstrating our upfront way of doing business. It's important to us. Our operations that Scott just outlined, and I hope everybody took that as a takeaway here, are a vital part of the community. We are a big benefit, and we've been asked how we benefit throughout these proceedings. The 34 jobs that Scott outlined in the economic report tonight are conservative when you look at just Naceville. When you look at the 239 jobs that are part of Naceville and the H&K Group, who depend largely on each other, you can see there is a huge impact to our community, a huge economic benefit to how we fit into the community and that we are woven into the fabric of our community. We were asked last meeting, you are a community member. Yes, we are. And we stand behind that, and we support many individuals. It doesn't take you long to recognize those businesses that are connected with our firm. Just down the street, Indian Valley Bolt Carriers, or Landis Block, Burden's, not just the truck center, but the tire center. All the folks that Scott outlined are directly connected with the businesses that function together. One depends on the other. And these wages that flow back into the community. Take it one step further. Sit at the counter of the Royale on a Sunday morning, or look at the hat rack and see our firm's wares throughout the building. We are part of the community. So tonight, we've outlined again our solutions, listening to the concerns of the community. I believe we've addressed them. We've gone above and beyond how other operators operate. That's consistent with the way we do business, consistent with our culture. We've presented facts to back up everything that we've presented. Any question that was asked, we answered. Anything that we felt needed to be adjusted, we adjusted. So we respectfully request that you recommend the zoning change. And as Scott said, we're here to answer any questions. And once again, thank you for your support. Thank you for taking time out of your busy schedules and listening to what we have to say.
Okay, thank you. All right. You guys have any discussion on any of these matters? Anything new from tonight? I think everything's been pretty well hit on previously. We got a little bit of new information on the Pendy stuff.
It was interesting to me to see the report that we had from the independent hydrogeologist.
Yes.
It basically confirmed the standards that HK used and the geologist used, expanded on a couple of them, but basically they supported what HK has been telling us.
Yeah, I would agree with that. You know, one of the things that jumped out at me was the fact that the expansion isn't going to have as much impact as your further deepening of the quarry, which you're allowed to do.
One of the things that jumped out at me was the water quality part, the arsenic.
Yes.
And they said that the arsenic is not homogeneously spread out throughout the formation. And it hits pockets, so some people could experience more arsenic in the water because of where the well is in relation to the arsenic in the formation.
Right.
And the fact that the drawdown that occurs from that particular well, particularly if it had to be drilled, a new well had to be drilled or deepened, it would go through different strata in different formations and possibly have more arsenic than we had before.
So the deepening of a well could introduce arsenic,
Right.
what this report is saying. They might have arsenic in a lower vein, for lack of a better term. That could introduce it into the well. It doesn't sound like the dewatering itself is causing any arsenic problems, according to this report.
Right.
And that is one of the reasons we asked for an independent report to find out an independent opinion. You have anything to the geologist?
I'd just like to add that I'd like to thank Naceville for being a good corporate citizen. I understand how you guys are going above and beyond what's required by the DEP as far as blasting pressures, all that kind of stuff. I also want to thank you for your safety concerns with the speed limit monitors and stuff like that on the roads. We do appreciate that.
You have anything? Anything? All right. So do we want to move forward and make a decision here?
I don't see the point in waiting any longer.
All right. Well, we got any public comment?
Sorry.
Michelle?
Michelle Shadow, 260,000 Acre Road. Just wanted to recap, Scott recapped a few things. Most importantly, I want to point out, this property is a residential conservation area, and Naceville knew that when they bought the property. In fact, it had a deed restriction on it, stating that it wasn't supposed to be mined or stoned. So they knew going in, what the constraints were on this property. The residential conservation district purpose, we're in the RC district, the whole area is a residential conservation area. And that purpose is to promote low-intensity rural development in resource protection areas where major physiographic problems restrict development and to preserve areas of unique natural value and beauty. Rezoning to extraction and allowing expansion of a quarry operation could not be any more contrary to the purpose of the RC district, as quarries consume and deplete land. Once a quarry goes in and they conduct operations, you can't get that land back. It could not be any more contrary to that. And I just wanted to bring, especially Ben, I don't know, if there were a lot of things that, may have been presented that you weren't aware of, and maybe even some other people here. But just to recap, that the proposed expansion area lies within an environmentally sensitive area, and proposed development will result in environmental impacts. We cannot deny that. You cannot deny that. The proposal to rezone and expand contradicts the West Rockhill Township zoning ordinance purpose: to promote, protect, and facilitate a safe, adequate water supply for domestic and agricultural use. This is impacting our water. We need water to survive. I just listened to what those two gentlemen had to say, and it pretty much involved nothing but money. Money. My family needs water to survive. We need water. That's our basic life need. Yeah. The Naceville Materials Quarry has already been documented to adversely impact the potable well water supply used by the residents and the communities in the vicinity of the quarry. And Naceville Materials acknowledges that continued quarry operations along with an expansion will continue to adversely impact nearby residential wells. I just don't understand why it seems like it is allowable for this project to impact our residents, our drinking water, so they can make money. I don't get it. Again, we have a constitutional right to clean water. I also wanted to point out that the lot 523461 is only 11.15 acres. And the West Rockhill Township minimum lot size requirement in an extraction district is 25 acres, thus this lot does not meet the minimum lot size requirement in the West Rockhill Township zoning ordinance for an extraction district. I know Scott or Steve had talked about that. They look at, an area in general, but the bottom line is it doesn't meet that requirement. There are exceptional value freshwater wetlands in the vicinity of the proposed expansion area that could possibly be impacted as a result of the project. The entire area subject to the application is mapped as a core habitat of biological diversity, natural heritage area. These are the best examples of ecological resources in a county. The best examples in the county are right down the street, right here. The subject properties contain forested communities which provide exceptional habitat for wildlife. Expanding the quarry into this area will destroy the existing wildlife habitat. The site subject to the application lies within the Ridge Valley Creek watershed and its headwaters. And this is a high-quality watershed with trout stock fisheries. According to the West Rockhill Township Open Space Park and Recreation Plan, the township is working to protect its fragile ecosystems of the northern section of the township, which contains this environmentally sensitive Ridge Valley Creek watershed. The expansion area lies within this area. According to the natural areas inventory by the Bucks County Heritage Conservancy, the proposed expansion area is located within the Ridge Valley Creek Priority Inventory Site. Outfall structure NM001 at the quarry discharges runoff from the quarry to the unnamed tributary to Ridge Valley Creek. The downstream exceptional value wetlands and TME species and their habitat could be impacted by pollutants and sediment that can be carried by surface water discharge. If West Rockhill Township grants the rezoning request and the quarry expands, property values will decrease, those ones that are adjacent to the quarry. The local residents will receive no compensation for this property value decrease, yet the quarry will benefit financially. I know Scott just gave an analysis regarding that. My own nephew was interested in buying the house on Shady Lane, very interested. And when I told him about the quarry expansion, he walked. So you can't tell me that it doesn't impact property values. Noise generated by the existing quarry is an adverse impact to neighboring residences. Continued operations and quarry expansion activities have potential to generate more noise impacts to neighboring residences beyond what they are already subject to. Blasting operations at the existing quarry have reportedly resulted in cracked and compromised foundations to neighboring dwellings and in-ground swimming pools. If the expansion is granted, the operation will be closer to residences, and the impacts that they experience will be far greater than that which they are already subject to. Due to the quarry operation, there are an exceptional number of dump trucks on the local roads. Although this roadway was paved over the summer, it is only a matter of time before the heavy-weighted trucks wreak havoc on it again. Ridge Road is a main access route for dump trucks carrying materials to and from the quarry. Allentown Road also abuts the quarry facility. These same roads are used by school buses and the many inexperienced student drivers that commute to local schools, including Pennridge High School. And I know that Mr. Haynes can't control, what a trucker might do behind the wheel, but it is a fact that, we have an excessive number of trucks on the roads, and, it can, it can possibly lead to, an unfortunate accident. Final reclamation plans involve the creation of an unmanaged water impoundment when the pumps turn off. This will not be a lake that you take your son or daughter fishing to. It is an unfortunate reality that someone's son or daughter will likely drown in the unmanaged water impoundment. Many residents question what will be used to fill in the proposed reclamation area. The fill material brought in from outside sources will serve as a medium that will interact with our groundwater and affect our surface waters. There is a high probability the mine pit will be filled with contaminated material at some point, if not already. Regulated fill includes materials such as asphalt, historic fill, and dredged fill. Once quarry operations cease, trucks will continue en route to the quarry carrying fill material for possibly decades, as reclamation is a main moneymaker for a quarry. Aside from hydric towhee soils, Lehigh Shannery silt loam is mapped for the site remainder, and these soils are prime farmland soils that will be stripped and eventually most likely sold for off-site clean fill. Naceville Materials stated they plan to seek a waiver of land development plan approval from the township ordinance, yet all other proposed land development applications brought before the West Rockhill Township Planning Commission is required to adhere to the local ordinance. The quarry is reaching its mining limit, and now this facility wants to expand into a residential area. This proposed expansion will only benefit the quarry with monetary gains, yet adversely impact the local residential community and natural resources of the surrounding land. These are just a few things that, I've come up with, people in the audience have come up with, but I'm not getting a warm, fuzzy feeling from you guys, and, I realize how important the stone industry is, but, there are many other quarries, obviously, just so that they have many other quarries. This is a residential area. It's zoned residential conservation. They knew that when they bought the property. We live near there. We need water. It is not fair that we should have to deal with our wells going dry. In the future, the well's going dry. And I wanted to point out that any preliminary studies regarding the arsenic, their operations are ongoing. We don't know what kind of impacts may occur down the road. Once the groundwater is contaminated, it's done.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Robert Linden. All right if I don't stand?
That's fine, yes, thank you.
I listened to H&K's presentation tonight, and it sounded like that very important economic consideration for Bucks County. Has anyone from Bucks County been here to solicit the approval of this zoning change?
No, I'm aware of.
So we're really only talking about West Rockhill. So that comparison makes no difference, right? We don't care really about Bucks County. We really care about West Rockhill tonight, right? And also their presentation sort of sounded like if they didn't get this approval, that they were going out of business, because they didn't say what the economic impact was if they didn't get the approval. They just sounded like this is the economic impact if they folded up their operation. So I want to know, are you going out of business if you don't get this tonight?
No, we've talked about for some time that the length of activity or length of time which we will mine, both with the expansion and without the expansion.
Well, you didn't present what that dollar value was.
We presented annually what the impacts are and the benefits are, and we presented them both as a Bucks County community member and a West Rockhill community.
Secondly, I was expecting to hear something from this hydrologist, $5,000 study. I went and did my research, and according to what I read, if you disturb the ground surface or you disturb by blasting the ground structure, that you will release more arsenic into the water. I don't understand anyone saying that there wouldn't be any change. If you're going to do additional mining and blasting, which you'd have to do, you're going to release more arsenic. And if you certainly scrape the surface off the ground, you're going to introduce groundwater deeper into the subsoil, and that's going to wash out more arsenic. So I just think that arsenic is a problem, and it should be studied or considered. I don't believe that there's no change. Those are my feelings, that's my studies, and that's what I presented to you.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Denise?
Denise Rogers, 1595 Lower Rockydale Road. I have a few things after listening to the presentation and some comments. The comment was made that, you know, people have taken the time to listen to the residents. I don't know that, you may have heard our words, but I don't believe that you've listened to the words. I don't think there's been a resident here that has been happy that, oh, this economic impact, that's the best thing on earth. That should make us change our mind. There's no one here. I don't think you've listened to us because it's not about the economic impact for us. It's about why we moved to this area. There was a comment made about the well monitoring, and I kind of got a feeling that if someone had to have a new well drilled, and this is also goes back to the last meeting with the hydrogeologist that you brought. What does that resident do when you drill so deeply? And the gentleman had said, well, you know, those lower stratus of rock and soil, you know, that's where you get that sulfury kind of water and everything. Well, when we moved here, you know, and currently, we have nice water because we don't have to drill that deep. And what do you do if they keep finding those pockets of arsenic? What does that resident do? What recourse do they have? I can go back to some comments that I took off the notes or the minutes of one of the last comprehensive plan meetings. And there was a statement in there about the topography and soil composition in this area makes sewer and water expansion challenging, almost next to impossible. And there was the fact that if the quarry still existed and we tried to put the infrastructure in for a system of a public water system, that most of that pipe, it couldn't withstand the blasting and things over time. So in the long run, this does not still sound to me like a necessity for West Rockhill. The idea of home values, you know, not decreasing. When you compared some of the places that you compared home values, I think it was already mentioned, and this is where I say I don't know if you've all really listened and taken comprehensive notes, but those areas have the benefit of public water and public sewer. So a resident that buys a $500,000 home down in those areas, you know, first of all, they have extensive money to spend on that, but they don't have to worry about losing their water source. I still think that the well monitoring still doesn't address the quality of the water enough. There are people that came to this meeting and said that their well was dug, replaced, but their water really stinks. It's just really crummy. The addressing a reclamation, I didn't hear any comments about that in your summaries tonight. Did our hydrogeologist or your hydrogeologist, did they look at any issues of the sediment that's in that pit as water begins to fill that pit? He talked about the water where it comes, where the veins that it comes through. Some of that sediment, by virtue of water pressure and things, is going to shove that sediment back into our water source, our ground, our well water. It's going to become part of our system. Some of that debris, that's just the nature of hydraulics. Where does that go? Where does that go eventually? That, I haven't seen that addressed. And I might not be here when that is reclaimed. I might be aging, I don't know. So I'm not thinking just for myself. I'm thinking about children and grandchildren that live in this community. Let's see. And I see one regard, Scott, when you talked about, people should call you directly and address their well issues. Well, it's every resident's right to also inform the DEP. So, why do you have this idea that, well, we'd rather address it ourselves rather than involve the DEP? Well, that to me raises a little question in my mind. So it's, I guess my last statement is really that this has more to do with economics, or less to do with economics, and more to do with public, our lives, the residents that live here, that lived here well before this quarry was given their space that they have now. And I feel that limiting them to that space is just a current condition of your industry. Sometimes that's the end. That's just the end. It happened with Bethlehem Steelworks. Those people had to leave. They had to find a job someplace else. And I'm sorry for that, for those people, but we all live here. You guys don't live here. I don't know how many of those employees actually live in West Rockhill Township. Most of them don't live right nearby the quarry pit. So they're not having the impact. You're seeing the people in this room that have direct impact. I've talked to lots of residents that live a little bit farther away, and they're still not in favor of it, even though they probably would see less impact. So I'm hoping that the Planning Commission really considers the last, 4 to 5 meetings that people have presented a lot of things on the other side of what was presented here.
Done? Thank you. Anyone else? Karina?
It's Karina Renner, 217 South Road. The Bucks County, I just want to review, the Bucks County Planning Commission stated that West Rockhill Township's future land use and growth management identifies the quarry as being located in the resource protection area. The resource protection area includes lands that require special protection because they contain critical natural resources, woodlands, wetlands, hydric soils, and prime agricultural farmland. The resource protection area in West Rockhill Township includes the headwaters of the Ridge Valley Creek, designated as high-quality waters by the Pennsylvania Department of Environmental Protection. And then they state, the planned expansion of the quarry is inconsistent with the future land vision. Thank you.
Ron, for 10,000 acre. Talk about the economic advantages of the influences that you have. And I've been in construction all my life. Mr. Haynes, I've actually got stone from you. You're there. I thank you for that. And it's something that is in life. Don't get me wrong, things are used. But Landis Block has been there long before I've been laying brick. They're gonna be there after I get done laying brick. Bergie Tire, I'm sure, is still gonna be in whether you're there or not, Bergie Tire is gonna be in existence. Bulk Indian Valley bulk carriers were probably there before the quarry was. It was before my time. I'm sure they're gonna be there if you don't get their expansion. They're gonna find a way. So, and as far as, we could put a Walmart in there. Walmart would have done good. They would have hired people. There would have been jobs. There would have been, but there wouldn't have been any holes in the ground. There would, and if they left, we would still have something there, not something we gotta worry about, any problems that incur from that. We don't have any problems with water or anything like that if we put a Walmart there, back in '92. So the thing is, you say you got 16 more years there, we can't do nothing about that. You're gonna be there till it's done. And again, the way this property was purchased, you purchased this property and it was under residential conservation. How that deed restriction came lifted, it's a lot of questions about that, and it's never gonna be answered, I'm sure. But if it was bought residential conservation, and you knew that getting into this, and you say about how you run business, well, I'd like to know if that's how you run business, because people don't understand how that happened. And that just brings a lot of questions into people's minds when that comes into play. So I didn't want to bring that up too much, but it's in the back of my mind how that happened. So, or we wouldn't even be here today discussing this. That's pretty much what it is.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Frank?
Frank Schimendera, 1030 Allentown Road. I think we got to look at this as not a Haynes Kibble House, West Rockhill Township. It's West Rockhill Township. You've sat on committees, there's a lot of people in these rooms have sat till 10, 11 o'clock at night to set up the zoning laws of this community. And if you can't live with them, that's a shame. We did them for reasons, and I think we should live by them. Because if we keep on changing them for every Tom, Dick, and Harry who comes into the community or lives in the community, we got problems. We might as well do away with every committee we have and say, hey, it's open season in West Rockhill Township, do what the hell you want.
Yes, Denise.
Denise Rogers, 1595 Lower Rocky Dale Road. Actually, this is a question, I guess, for the commission. The survey that was put out, what kind of feedback did you get? Were there comments about zoning? Were there comments about, quarry expansion? I know there was not really a specific question on there about that, but there was an area where people could speak their mind at the very end. Are those results going to be published anywhere? I don't really think that a decision, can be made until public has complete access to at least some kind of a summary about that.
Yeah,
What happened with that?
We got a lot of comments about the quarry and zoning. Not as planning commission, on the comprehensive plan committee, which Don here heads. You want to chime in on that one?
Well, I mean, yeah, there were 900 or something like that results, so for about 15 pages or 10 pages, whatever it was. And I can say this, my recollection, and it will be open record sometime in the near future as we move down the road with the plan. But there were many comments by many people who want the quarry to stop.
Yeah,
They don't want the quarry expansion.
They oppose the expansion. There's a lot of comments written in, yes. When that becomes public, I don't know.
Okay.
As a public document.
The plan is it will be part of the comprehensive plan in the appendix.
Excuse me.
And it will all be available for everybody to see when we finish the project.
Anybody else? All right, thank you. All right, so back to us. We have any more discussion up here? You good?
Well,
You ready to make a decision?
yeah.
All right, so we're gonna either need a motion to approve or deny the request. Agree with that?
Yep.
All right, so somebody wanna make a motion to deny or approve?
I move we deny.
You move we deny the application. We have a second.
I'll second
Okay. It's been
I'll
made.
tell you why.
Yeah, well, we have the proper motion and second, so now we can have discussion.
I've been to the open house in the spring. I was impressed by the people. I was impressed by their operation. I've been impressed by their commitment to the community and the things that they've done to help the township. But I've been listening to the residents, and I hear what to me are a bunch of horror stories, particularly with the water. And I just can't think that to change the zoning is in the best interest of the citizens and for the township.
Thank you. Any other discussion?
I will second the first half of everything that Ben said. For me, it boils down to a matter of, this is a residential conservation district. This is an area the township has decided to set aside to preserve, and extraction is basically the antithesis of that.
Tim?
I agree with everything that was said here. The concern I have is that this is an ongoing thing. It's going to be here for another 16 or 20 years. With that being said, I think some of the things that HEK proposed with regard to water testing, monitoring, the installation of arsenic abatement systems, what have you, I think are good things that would be beneficial to the people for the next number of years that the water is going to be in operation. I realize all the concerns. I just, my concern is that period of time it's still in operation. If those things are not afforded to you, then that's something that needs to be addressed, I guess, by individuals. So,
No, I agree. Andy, got anything?
Yeah, I'm going to come out on the other side of this one. Based upon the hydrogeologist reports from Val Britton and MAI, the proposed expansion would only present a slight impact east of the quarry. MAI reported that they are concerned with drawdown that occurs at the 355 and 305 benches mean sea level. And they're concerned about the possible introduction of arsenic in the previously unused water-bearing zone. In my opinion, this can happen regardless of the expansion. To mitigate these risks, I've listened to everybody's concern. I wanted to say thank you to the residents who've come out to express their concerns, to H&K for your presentations, also to the board of supervisors for giving us the time to consider all this. To mitigate these risks, H&K indicated they would monitor, at 6 residential points for 2 years, and then for an additional year, and confer with the township, which we would have, control and input after that. They have accepted responsibility to install arsenic removal systems when exceedances occur. From what we've heard and from what we've seen, they run a safe operation. They have appropriate fences, screens, berms in place, and they comply with local, state, and DEP reporting requirements. They have a complete response plan in place, and they seem responsive when addressing residents' concerns, and they limit ground vibration, noise, and they replace wells as needed. Per our township's comprehensive plan, a well-planned development area allows for different forms of development and provides a stimulus to the local and regional economy. Also per our comp plan, the database areas that the Rockhills place significant limitations on what development can happen in that area because the steeply sloping slopes, limit development. I also point out that our comp plan states that 36.9% of working adults in the township are employed in construction, extraction, maintenance, production, transportation, or material moving. Per our zoning ordinance, section 301A, resource protection areas generally are not suited for or intended to support intense development. Section 301C goes on to say that extraction may occur in these resource protection areas. Our comp plan acknowledges that some development will occur within the resource production areas within the 10-year horizon, and it encourages appropriate development in appropriate areas of the township. The proposed area of expansion is adjacent to the existing quarry. In a letter from the Bucks County Planning Commission dated April 5th, 2017, they indicate that the proposed rezoning would be generally consistent with the surrounding land use, and that's a position that I agree with.
It's a no-brainer.
Wrong.
Yeah.
That's wrong.
Let me finish, please. Lastly, our zoning ordinance, Article 16, Section G11, subsection K4. No permit for any extraction operation shall be issued until the applicant demonstrates it has received all other permits and approval forms from other regulatory agencies. In this area, H&K would have to continue to demonstrate compliance. And lastly, we are an advisory committee. We present our recommendation to the Board of Supervisors for final consideration. So for those reasons, I'm not in agreement with denying the application.
Okay, thank you. All right. Anything else? All right, we got a motion on the floor. It's been seconded. The motion is to deny the application. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Nay.
Abstention. Okay. Motion carries. Sorry, guys. We are going to let the supervisors know that we are recommending denial of your application.
Oh, thank you.
So, supervisors meet next week. That's when I make my recommendation.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. I'm sorry. Anyway, we got more business to take care of. All right, next on the agenda is new business. I have no new business. Do we have anything? I have nothing. All right, old business. Oh, I'm sorry, engineering update. Steve.
I do have one thing. You have our status report. There's really nothing on there, but I just want to make you aware on the Holterman lot line adjustment. Remember that plan up there on the, whatever you want to call it, upper Catch Basin Road or Wayland Road? It's something up there. They're desperate to get things finalized. They were hoping to get their record plan here tonight and time for you to sign it, but they haven't. I anticipate that it will be here before the board meeting next week. I'm hoping that those two of the planning commission members will be here that could sign it at the supervisors meeting if the supervisors sign it next week.
I'll be here.
I don't know if I can make it to the supervisors meeting, but I can make it in before then.
Well, Judy, if we get it beforehand, Judy could send out an email.
Yeah.
I don't have to sign it at the same time, do I?
No,
Supervisor.
you can sign it whenever.
Okay.
But it would have to be those two, right?
Not
Not
necessarily.
necessarily, you'd be next time.
No, it can be any two members that are in attendance next Wednesday. Anybody else planning to come next Wednesday?
Like everybody have to sign it?
No.
No.
You just do?
If it's possible,
I'll be here.
it would help expedite this issue. I just wanted to make you aware of that.
Okay, good. No.
There's a good chance the plan will be at the next,
Okay.
at the board's meeting.
Yeah, I'm sure they're anxious to get it.
Yeah, they had some snafus with some paperwork, but I think it's all taken care of now, so.
And then we have, NICE is gonna be in front of zoning hearing in February.
Yeah, I didn't hear the date of the meeting, but yes.
I think it's in February, right?
Right now, it's
Okay.
Yeah, there won't be anything on that before the, like, it's not gonna come back to you before the zoning hearing meeting.
Okay. That it?
Yep.
All right. Old business. The only old business I have is that we haven't heard back from Richland Township,
Got no response in the letter.
from a letter.
Have you heard anything from PennDOT with regard to any?
No, the only thing I've heard, I did have a discussion with one of the engineers from Langen, who implied they're still in discussions with Richland Township over the potential zoning change, how that's gonna take place, or the mechanism for whether it's a use change or a district change. I don't know the details, but my understanding, they're still in discussions with Richland Township over zoning aspects. That's probably why we haven't heard. I don't know if Jim knows anything different than I do, but. What's that?
That's accurate.
Okay, something.
Nothing with regard to traffic.
I have not heard anything more on the traffic front.
Okay. That's all I have for old business. Going to public comment. Frank?
Frank Schuman, 1030 Allentown Road. There's a little confusion on how that vote went. Was it 3-1?
It's 3-2. Got, Tim and Andy voted against denial. That's not what you heard?
No. You abstained.
No,
No,
he's
no,
gonna
no.
ask if there were
I asked
abstentions.
if there were any abstentions. There was
Oh,
no
I'm
need for me
sorry.
to ask that because we already had a five-man tally.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Anyone else? Michelle?
Michelle Shutter, 260 Thousand Acre Road. Sorry for interrupting you. I want to thank you guys for, taking the time, even though, it's a job to be up there, but to listen to us and really listen to us and putting up with us and everything. And I just wanted to say thank you to so many people here. So many people, I don't know if you guys are aware, but this whole process has really brought this community together. I have the best neighbors. I have so many great people that live not only just near me, but in the township. And people were so compassionate about this. You definitely made the right decision. But just Karina, thank you so much for all of your hard work and dedication. For Trish and Bob, everybody did something that was their way of contributing. Denise Rogers, she wrote senators and congressmen, and everybody did. Bob Rambo and Tony even. Tony, you don't even live near us, but he knows, he's near the M&M quarry, and he sees the impacts that has happened there. And he doesn't want what's happened over there to happen here. And it will happen here, But I just, Will and Kathy, you guys really have been through a lot. And, I feel bad for you. I hope things get rectified for you. But I just wanted to say thank you, David Collingwood. Thank you, my husband, can't forget him, but, anyway, I just wanted to say, thank you.
Thank you, Michelle.
Yeah.
Anyone else? Okay, seeing no more public comment. I look for a motion to adjourn.
So motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone, for coming out. And happy holidays to you. We don't see you next week.